Hey everybody, Nick here, and today I got a review for you of this little guy right here. This is the Thrunite Lights T2. First off, though, in the name of full disclosure, I want to thank Thrunite for sending this guy along. They reached out to me, said, "Hey Nick, we got a new light. You interested?" I said, "Yeah, sure, why not? Let's check out a capacity pump, see if they've done anything new and interesting here." And so I told them, as always, I'm going to talk about the good, the great, the bad, the ugly. Might be a gem, might be junk. They still did send it along. Nonetheless, we have to assume this is the very best quality controlled one of these guys ever, and I'm doing my best not to let that affect the nature of my review. Next thing, size comparison. This is actually a reasonably sized light, although it's not so huge. Here it is against the Thrunite Neutron 2C, which is one of my relatively favorite lights. This is something that's been in my pack more often than anything lately. Here it is against a standard 18650 battery, a CR123, RCR in this case, and a AA battery here. And then, finally, we can compare it against the thing that's inside of it, so you can see it is larger than the thing that is inside of it, just in case you were afraid there was a little bit of a Doctor Who thing going on here. But nonetheless, this is a 21700 battery. We can see, yeah, that fits in there nicely. And just so you get a sense of the 21700 versus 18650, yeah, it's a thing. So anyways, there is that. Let's go on ahead and, and then finally, one quick note. Because I do not have the technology to measure such things in a rigorous way. All of the lumen numbers are from manufacturer's specs, but I've done my best to make sure that it works in, sort of actual everyday life. So let's go on ahead and jump into the good, the great, the bad, the ugly of this very interesting light right here. This light right here. Let's go on ahead and start with the good, which is that it is actually in a reasonably nice size. It's sort of intermediate. It's relatively short, and shorter than the Neutron, by the way, which I appreciate, given that this is this light has a smaller, a shorter battery. The fact that it's shrunk a little bit on this dimension, I do appreciate, and the fact that it's not all that thick and not all that heavy overall, I do appreciate very much. I will go ahead and drop this guy in the scale so you can get a better sense of the weight on it. We're looking at 5.93 ounces for this light. It's not trivial, but it's certainly it's a very carryable size and a carryable weight. So that's good. Next thing, this is a reasonable clip. It looks a little weird. Some of you might be thinking, but Nick, why? Well, you can put it in the pocket this way, or you can put it onto something this way. And what this enables, and although this light's maybe a little heavy for it, but you could put this, for instance, clip this to the brim of a hat. Or you could clip this to the strap on the, the side of your pack or something like that, so that way you can put something in and still have it be front-facing. And so this gives you a little bit more versatility, and with relatively little penalty there. It's a little bit wider ergonomically speaking, but that's okay. You can rotate it around and match your hand into whatever, and by the way, that clip can then help you index where the button is, although indexing the button isn't very hard because they've got this smooth area here and the rubbery area on the back. So that's good. Next up, the outputs on this guy are pretty good. I appreciate very much the power you get out of this light here. You get a 3700 lumen advertised turbo mode. What that practically means is that this is too bright in a reasonably small indoor area. If you put this on turbo, it is bright. It is very, very bright, and that's actually kind of nice. It works out pretty well there. And then if you want your high mode, which is long-term 725 lumens, that's pretty damn bright still indoors. In practice, the low mode is sufficient for navigating a reasonably dark room, which is good, and the medium mode gives you a fair amount of light. So I feel like the output on this guy is pretty much everything I would need for an everyday carry light, even for a longer-term sort of approach. So that's good. Next thing, this has a fair amount of flood. If we look at the beam pattern on this guy, and here, I'll turn it up a little bit, what we see here is that with it only a little bit of ways, although there is certainly a brighter spot in the center, and that spot is definitely a different color. We'll talk about that later on. There is a fair amount of spill here. So this gives you a nice combination of spottiness for distant use and brightness in the overall approach for spread and throw, that is. I guess flood is the proper term. But I tend to prefer a much floodier light for everyday carry, just because very often it's not like I want to look at that one thing 600 yards away. Instead, I'm looking for something to get some light on the entire situation around me. So I think that's very good. Next thing, this has a Moonlight Mode. What that means is just a very, very low mode. So, for instance, if you're looking at a map in your car late at night, you don't want to blow out your night vision, what you do is you hold down on the side button there, and that turns on Moonlight Mode. You can see the emitter is on, and it is putting out light, but not a whole lot of that light. And as a result, you get something that is very, very difficult, well, low brightness, but at the same time, and so it's not going to blow out your night vision, but still puts out the brightness, and that's good. Next thing, this is waterproof to IPX8 standards. That's getting pretty common these days, but it's good to see. Next, it comes with a battery, which I do appreciate, and considering that the price ain't super cheap, that's kind of a necessary thing, especially given that it is the more esoteric 21700 standard. Next thing, this is nominally USB-C rechargeable. What that means is if you peel this port back, you can recharge this with some USB-C charges. We'll talk about that a little bit more later, but I love recharge on a light. At some level, there is always the argument that it adds another point of failure to a light, and I can certainly understand that. But at the same time, especially for somebody who is not a flashlight enthusiast, I can see the benefit of just being able to plug it into a charger you've already got. And USB-C is a future-proof sort of thing, because we all know that micro USB is slowly on the way out. And so hopefully we're going to get to a place where USB-C is sort of what's around, and that's a great thing. Then finally, finally on the good side, the interface on this is very straightforward. Having recently reviewed some lights with interfaces that were trying to be a little bit smarter than they actually were, I appreciate this. To start with, it's a side click. There's not like a bottom kind of thing, which just makes it very easy. You hold it in your hand, and when you want to turn it on, you press the button. When you want to turn it off, you press the button again. That's nice. But more importantly, if you hold down the button, you get Moonlight Mode. If you double-click the button, you get Turbo Mode. If you just press the button once, you go into the last setting you were in, and then you hold the button down, and it cycles through high, in that case, back down to low, and then again, medium, high, low, medium, high, etc. And there is a way, I think a triple click gives you disco mode. I forget it. Yeah, exactly. Sorry about the disco there, but nonetheless, you get all the interface you need here, and that's good. This is something that's going to be very straightforward for a lot of people to pick up, and not just for flashlight nerds. So that's great. And so to me, all of that is the good, is that it's got a simple interface, USB-C recharge. It comes with a battery. It's waterproof. It's got Moonlight Mode, well, waterproof to IPX8, that is. Lots of flood, pretty solid outputs, a reasonable clip, and intermediate size. On the great side, to me, the runtimes are pretty damn good here. You get, at their highest mode, 725 lumens, you get 3.75 hours, and that's basically an extra hour relative to the 18650 based 2C. Along with a little bit of a lumen bump. So that's good. You get 7.5 hours of runtime at medium. That's 366 lumens. So that's damn near getting you through a whole night shift with the entire time the thing being on at the medium mode. 77 hours on low, which is still quite good, and then 69 days at 0.3 lumens. Nice. So I'm a big fan of the runtimes on this guy. When you go up to the 21700, you get a little bit more juice, and that's reflected in the runtimes as you would hope. So to me, that's what's great. Good runtimes here. On the bad side, price on this guy is $70. It's not oh my god good, but it's fine, especially given that it includes a battery. Okay, sure, I guess. But I'd like to see them push that price down, especially because there's not anything super like, oh my god, innovative here. Next thing, 21700 batteries. They definitely add some capacity, but they are a lot more esoteric. The world has started running on 18650s lately. Largely, this is in part due to the vape folks. Largely in part. Nice. But you can go to a vape store and get a good source of 18650s. 21700s, maybe a little bit less so. And so you're going to have less likelihood of having spares around. Mind you, it's rechargeable, so okay, but still. That's one thing you got to keep in mind. Next thing, why did they not use the interface from the Neutron here? So watch this. On the Neutron, it's on. If I press this down, you see it just gradually gets brighter and brighter and brighter. And then at the top, flashes, says, hey, I'm as high as you're getting. Then it goes down. This ends up giving you an infinite distribution between low and high, meaning you can choose exactly the amount of light you want. This is great. Why did they not do that? Why are we just having, if we hold it down, low, medium, high, low, medium, high? And in many cases, just using this guy and given just around the house because it's the freaking pandemic. But there were places where it was like, okay, low is a little too dark, medium is a little too bright. I kind of wish I could be in the middle. And the nice thing about an infinite interface like that is you get exactly the amount of light you need and no less. No more, which means that you're not having to worry as much about battery life because you're using less power, basically. So I wish that they'd use the interface from the 2C there. This feels like a step down. Next thing, turbo and high both step down to, speaking of step downs, to 725 lumens. Turbo goes from 3700 lumens after 2 minutes to 725, and high drops down from 1712 down to 725. Now, look, that's kind of the nature of the beast when you've got a small light like this. But at the same time, it's a little weird when the company advertises, oh, wow, 3,700 lumens for 2 minutes. Yeah, not great. And this, by the way, heats way up. As just a part of my normal experimentation, what I'll do is I'll take the light and I'll put it on high, and I'll set it down on the table and just point it up at the ceiling and then forget about it for a little while. I mean, I'll have it right next to me in case it catches fire. Actually, you'd think I should have it behind the shield or something. But anyways, when you do that, this heats way up. And I'm not just talking about the head and the emitter. I'm saying all the way down to the handle. This was like, oh, that's toasty. So it's a great hand warmer. But high in turbo mode is definitely going to give you a lot more thermal load than you want. Next thing, color on this guy. Not amazing. If we kind of look at this guy right here on the table, this is all one uniform color of black. What we see here is that this part in the middle here is very yellowish. This part on the outside is very bluish. So as a result, you get this chromatic aberration thing. This is something that Thrunite has done for years and years and years, and that I've complained about for years and years and years. And if you compare this to other lights, for instance, this little guy, this is the JetBeam RRT01, which has blue-ish and then bluish. Hey, congratulations. It's all the same damn color. That's kind of annoying, right? I really wish Thrunite had better color. It's a continuing issue for them. Then finally, on the bad side, this is maybe unfair, but I don't think it is at some level. This is more of the same damn thing. Thrunite is a company that really feels like they're not trying to push any boundaries. I like the company. The Neutron has been my EDC choice for a long time. But guys, this is about as safe as you get, right? This is exactly the same light that everybody else is making. Honestly, I'm sure it's differentiated in some ways or another, but at the same time, dude, I thought this was new. And it is new, and I don't think that there is a 21700 and such, but guys, I feel like Thrunite is stuck doing the safe thing. I don't feel like they're doing any research and development or anything. It's just like, okay, we made a new one. It's it's 500 lumens more than the last one. Or, oh, look, it uses a slightly... I just really wish that I could see a little bit more out of them in the way of innovation, in the way of pushing the boundaries, rather than doing kind of the same stuck-in-the-pattern lights out there. Then finally, on the so that's actually the bad side, is that this is more of the same. The color isn't great. It heats way up. Both turbo and high have stepped down from down to 725 lumens. They should be using the Neutron interface, which is just much better. 21700 is a little bit more obscure, and $70 is fine, but it's not great. On the ugly front, unfortunately, the USB-C implementation leaves two things to be desired. Start with, this is very stupid, but at some level, it becomes a major issue. Look at how deep the USB-C port is into this. Now, I get that at some level that's probably helping them seal this off. Whoa there. That got toasty. But more importantly, if we look inside of here, we see there is a lot of recession there. And not recession in the sense we're in right now, but recession in the sense that, oh, God, that was too... Oh, that got dark. I better turn on a light. This is deep in there, and as a result, a number of the USB cables I have didn't work. They just didn't fit in there, and especially the ones that are kind of designed to be ergonomic just don't get all the way into that. That said, I was able to find two cables that did, and that allows me to show off the other issue here. What I have to start with over here is a USB-C cable connected to a power delivery adapter. Now, for the majority of the devices in your life, particularly if you are using, for instance, a laptop or a tablet, they are using the USB-C power delivery spec. And this means that it's what's used to charge modern iPads, a lot of modern laptops, etc. When I plug this into the back of the light, nothing happens. This doesn't speak power delivery. And so as a result, the USB-C charger that you're already carrying around probably won't actually work with this. As opposed to, if I take this is actually a micro USB cable here, and it's just connected to a boring phone charger sort of thing. And if I use this little USB-C adapter here, which, by the way, is a super handy thing to have in your life, especially as we're making this transition. I plug that in, boom. Yeah, it says, okay, yep, I'm charging. We're good. I got power. So basically, this does not work with some of the chargers. And in fact, it doesn't work with the majority of the USB chargers that are in a lot of people's, USB-C chargers, that is, that are in people's lives these days due to things like laptops and tablets and things like that. So I really wish that they had bothered, if you're going to go USB-C, to implement the spec a little bit more widely. So it can take power from anything and reduce the number of adapters you're carrying rather than increase it. Given, for many people, if you've got a USB-C phone, it's going to not be using amazing power delivery, but still, guys, come on. So to me, at least, what's ugly here is that the USB-C port is both too deep in there, preventing a lot of cables from working, and it doesn't support the power delivery spec, which means that half the chargers you've got aren't going to work anyways. Final conclusion, this is a fine light. It's got a nice size, a nice clip, nice outputs, good beam pattern, included batteries, USB-C charging, modulo that stuff, a simple interface, and quite nice runtimes there. It's a little on the, it's not a great budget point, we'll put it that way. The battery size isn't huge. The interface, not super satisfying. High lumen numbers don't stick around for too long. It eats way up. The color ain't great. The light's the light's a little bit boring. It's more of the same thing. And USB-C is just hard to, it's not quite well implemented here. On the whole, I feel like the light is good, but it's not great. I mean, there were a few things they could have done differently to really knock this out of the park. If they'd been able to balance the thermals a little bit better so you could run this on at high for a longer time. If they'd gotten the light collar right, if they'd done something new or interesting or innovative with it, or if they'd really nailed USB-C. Any of those things could have pushed this over the edge into great, but my overall feeling is sort of like, yeah, it's good. Nice. And so if you're looking for an EDC light, you need good runtime, good brightness, easy recharging, then honestly, sure, consider this guy. Especially if you want those runtimes, this is a solid choice, and this could very easily live in my pack, and any of those things, you know, it's fine. It's good to go, but it's also a very, very safe release. And so, you know, as much as I very much appreciate, you know, the fact that it works, it does mostly what it says in the tin, when you stand still, you start to fall behind. So I really hope to see Thrunite pushing forward a little bit, innovating, really trying their best to do something new, to do something different, to keep up with some of their competitors, like Nightcore and such, who are trying different things, who are trying different form factors, who are trying, I really want to be able to see them going forward with that, because if that's the case, then they will be able to get through this night and make pieces that are more than just fine. So anyways, there you go. Hope this is interesting to you. Have yourself an absolutely wonderful rest of your day. Bye now.